Hey everyone, and welcome. My name is Elia, and I'm here with GameOverJesse today because we have a new series requested by all of you and our Patreon supporters. In fact, this list of Zelda theories was sent in by our amazing Patreon supporter, Jacob. You'll notice that some of these theories are incredibly bad, and others are very well thought out. So we're going to go through and explain and discuss how great or horrible they are. On our podcast, the Hylian Gamescast, we've had similar videos with all of our faces on camera. However, this time we will have the theory on screen for everyone to read along. And we definitely encourage you to give your thoughts on all of these theories in the comments, and we will discuss them with you. If you come across a list that you would like us to discuss, then by all means, please send it to us on our Twitter or Instagram. Links will be in the description. And if you want to guarantee your theory or list getting discussed, then you ought to check out the Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/GameOverJesse. So number 15, confirmed. The old man in Breath of the Wild is the King of Hyrule. I bet you're also thinking, no duh, to this theory as well. However, before Breath of the Wild was released on the Nintendo Switch, and every fan became broke from having to buy a new console and game, we actually did not know who this old man in the trailer was. A lot of theories floated around at the time, my favorite being this could even be some form of Ganondorf. However, a lot of theorists hit the nail of truth and told their fellow fans, dude, that's the king, what's wrong with you? They recognized his facial features and sped up Hyrule Castle theme music. Though it would have been super interesting if the hooded man had turned out to be Ganondorf. Okay, so this is one that I like. When I first read it, I kind of went back and forth. I was the one that was like, no doubt, he literally tells you. But I do understand it from the perspective of before we knew. And I remember a person that watched a crap ton of theories about this, wondering who he was, because we didn't really know much. And when I wondered if he could be Ganondorf, and I was like, that would be interesting, but I really just don't see it. But then when I saw all of the theories about him being the king, especially when they went into the music, I was like, okay, the music, now that is significant. And music is always significant in The Legend of Zelda because music is amazing. God bless Koji Kondo and everyone that works for him. Anyway, so yeah, I just kind of went back and forth. So from the perspective of prior to the release, yeah, that is cool. But now it's kind of like, no dip, Sherlock.
Yeah, so it talks about the theories and stuff, like who he is or whatever. And I actually made a video when they first introduced him on exactly what they're talking about. Part of me wonders if they're actually referencing my videos with the theory, because I'll link it in the description. Obviously, it's outdated now because the game has came out and we know exactly who the old man is. I'll send it to Ilya right now.
Yeah.
And everyone else, you can find it in the description and the top pinned comment. But it basically talks about the possibility of how he could be the king because of all the visual similarities and stuff, because every single king of Hyrule, or almost every single king, is designed very similar, in the same way that Link, Zelda are always looking kind of similar. And then we have Ganondorf, because we knew that so the Ganondorf thing is like his skin tone in one of the cutscenes that they showed off, because we only had like one cutscene from this whenever they first showed it, and that's where everyone was basing their theories off of. And my thought was, I guess this kind of goes into another bonus theory, but my thought was that we knew time travel always plays a role in Zelda games. So, like, literally almost every single Zelda game. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker has you go to the past when you go underneath the water, I believe. Twilight Princess has you go to the past when you enter the one dungeon in the Sacred Grove, the Temple of Time. Yes, you travel back in time there. Skyward Sword is all about time travel, with the time shift stones and then the actual time gate that takes you back like 100 years. So I thought they were going to do something similar with Zelda Wii U or Breath of the Wild. And so I forgot one of the theories was that the old man was actually a Link from the future who was unable to stop Ganondorf. So he goes back in time as an old man to try and teach and do everything that he can to help Link win or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was one theory that I had that's kind of confusing, but to me it kind of made sense. Like maybe Link was unable to actually defeat Ganondorf, but he was able to like hold him back or seal him or whatever. And then, because they kind of did something similar with Skyward Sword at the end, because you see Impa as an old woman helping Link out, and you don't know that it's Impa. You just know it's an old woman sitting there. And at the same time, you have the young Impa and Zelda running around trying to do all of these things with the help of the old Impa that is like kind of giving advice to them and to you. And the entire time that Impa and Zelda are running around trying to stop everything, you also have Impa as an old woman sitting in front of the gate, and right behind the gate is Zelda asleep, trying to use her seal on Demise. So it would literally, like as crazy as that sounds, Link going back in time as an old man to help a younger Link, it is literally the exact same thing they did in Skyward Sword, except instead of two people going back in time, it's just one person. So that's where that came from. And it would basically, old Link would have the knowledge to help out young Link, like, this is the mistakes, this is what you need to do. And they kind of did something like that, where they hinted towards it with the Link Between Worlds, which they were working on right before Breath of the Wild actually started development. I think it released around the time that Zelda Wii U, as it was known, was in pre-production. But they had an old man in that game that is wearing the green outfit, and he's like a really good sword fighter, and he has all the same items and weapons that Link has. And there's an NPC that you can come across and talk to that says like, oh, that the old man, he's been on a lot of adventures and blah blah blah, and he kind of builds him up to make it seem like, oh, that sounds like Link, and you're in the same version of Hyrule as A Link to the Past. And the game, and I think even Hyrule Historia, heavily implies that the old man in A Link Between Worlds is Link from A Link to the Past. And then that's why he's the one that you're able to like have the sword fights with and everything, and he has like all of the same moves and items that young Link also has. And then after you, I forgot if like you fight Dark Link or Shadow Link and then you're able to fight him, or if you fight him and then you're able to fight against Shadow Link. I think Shadow Link's first. But anyways, the game heavily implies that it is old Link kind of helping out the young Link in A Link Between Worlds, although him helping you out is kind of like an optional thing. But because of that, and because of Skyward Sword, if you just mixed those two together, then you would get the theory for the old man in Breath of the Wild. And then you have, with Ganon, which I was going to explain, but then I got sidetracked with the other theory. So the theory with Ganon was Ganondorf is in his human form. He's old, doesn't have much strength, and it's basically the beast form, which is like, we know that he himself is Ganondorf. He is sort of the reincarnation of Demise. He's not really the reincarnation, it's just like Demise's hatred is what fuels Ganondorf.
Yeah, the embodiment of him.
And in the same way that Demise can turn into the imprisoned, the giant beast, Ganondorf also turns into his beast form, which is Ganon. And then Ganon, the beast, is the one who is thought to be the embodiment or the reincarnation of demise, whereas Ganon, like, okay, so explaining it quickly, Ganon is the reincarnation or whatever of demise, whereas Ganondorf is just a normal person who just happens to be fueled by the hatred that demise cursed the timeline with. If that does that make sense? Like one
Yeah.
that's how I always thought it. And then he uses the Triforce of Power or whatever to access it. And when we seen Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild, it was just like the giant shadowy dragon looking evil thing that was just like floating around the castle. And my thought was the embodiment of Ganon, or yeah, like basically the spirit, the evil of Ganon, like just the pure evil had left Ganondorf somehow. And Ganon is now just a normal King Gerudo. Like maybe he still has magic and stuff because like his mother's twin Rova had magic. So it would be likely that he would still know like minor abilities and everything, but then it would be just like the pure evil that was pushing him and driving him is now, sealed at the castle. And it's basically Ganondorf as a teacher of sorts, or a helper for Link. And then at the end, you find out that the old man, instead of being the king of Hyrule like we end up finding out, is actually Ganondorf. So that's what that theory was basically based off of, and why everyone thought that it was Ganon, because they called it Calamity Ganon, and they said that it was like the pure malice evil of Ganon, but he wasn't looking like we had seen him. It was like a ghosty type effect. So it's like he doesn't necessarily have a true physical body. He's just like unbodied evil floating around. So then if it doesn't have like a true physical form, then where is the physical form? Maybe it's the old man. It's complicated. Probably could have explained it a lot better. I apologize. But yeah, that's basically the thoughts on it that I had. We can get through these next ones a little bit quicker because I don't necessarily have a video that I made on that. But if you want to know more, you can go to that video. So this next one, number 14, is another short one. Number 14. Should be true. The postmen are all relatives. The postmen of The Legend of Zelda take their jobs very seriously. They're all also pretty consistent in the games, appearing in Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, The Minish Cap, Twilight Princess, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. We also have the Running Man in Ocarina of Time, but he's not necessarily a Mailman. But it is the same character model. These postmen all are alike in look and devotion to their work. It's odd, but you could even compare him to how Zelda and Link appear in every story with similar destiny. Except, unlike Link and Zelda, the postman is not attached to some deity war. Maybe the gods take Mel seriously too and reincarnate him. Sorry, that's funny. The goddess is taking the Mel seriously. Maybe the gods take the Mel seriously too and reincarnate him because he's so good at his job. It's more likely that there is a bloodline of mailmen, and the job is the family business. They all run super fast, so they probably have the same training and teach the same ideas. So I would say that not all of them run fast, because I think it's in the one in Ocarina of Time doesn't get fast until you give him the bunny hood, and I think you give the bunny hood to the mailman in Majora's Mask as well, and then he becomes fast.
I believe so. In the picture they have from Twilight Princess, his hat has a bunny on it.
Oh yeah, that is.
And on his shirt.
And the letter. That's cool.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize all this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But then that brings up the question, how's the bloodline have a Rito if the rest are Hylian? And the answer to that is, in Breath of the Wild, we know that there is interracial families, I guess is the best way to describe it. We actually have to help out I think we helped them out. The Zora and the Hylian.
Yeah, I don't know how that would actually work out, but
Yeah. So, two things could have happened. like the postman in Wind Waker, who is a Rito, his grandparents or great grandparents, whatever, could have been one of them could have been a Hylian, and the other could have been a Rito. Or, and then, they had a family or whatever, because we know that interracial families are possible. And the other is that before they turned into the Rito, we do know for a fact, we've never seen a Rito and a Hylian in a relationship, but since we do know that the Zora and the Hylian can be in a relationship, it could be possible that the postman and a Zora had a family, and then that bloodline of the postman eventually evolved into the Rito with the rest of the Zora that evolved into the Rito. So either before the evolution or after the evolution, there could have been a bloodline there. Or it could just be, like you mentioned earlier in the video before this one, because this is part 2 for everyone listening. We talked about how it doesn't necessarily have to be the same bloodline for them to look alike, because we know characters like Link always look the same, but are never actually related to each other, except in certain circumstances. And then there are other characters who are unrelated that end up looking similar as well. So in this, it could be that it was the bloodline that makes him look like that, or it could have been just like a reincarnation of some sort. And then he's just destined, like the reincarnation, unlike Link, who's destined to be the hero, he's just destined to be the mailman. But then Link also becomes sort of a mailman in
Wind Waker.
Yeah. So, yeah, because he sorts the mail and everything. Yeah, that's all I really say. With the fast thing, I would say the Rito are fast because they could probably fly fast, and then Twilight Princess Mailman seems to be fast because he shows up almost everywhere, and then he like chases you down out of nowhere as soon as you go into Hyrule Field. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on this before we move to the next one?
I definitely could see the whole just reincarnation thing. As far as bloodline, the only way I see that being possible for the Rito is if it happened when somehow, for some reason, the Rito don't. Because I'm like, Zoras lay eggs, birds lay eggs.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this could ever actually work biologically. Like, because like thinking about that one in Breath of the Wild, apart from the fact that the main creepy thing about the one in Breath of the Wild is because it's like, okay, well, technically the Zora is many years older than the Hylian, but respective to their lifespans, the Hylian is older than the Zora, because the Hylian is adult and the Zora's a child for Zora years. But I'm always like, Zoras lay eggs. This is not possible. So I guess that would be my only thing. But it could be either or. Anything's possible in the world of Zelda, I guess. They could be like, biology's not a thing. It's true. I mean, you have Princess Ruto, who's like all over Link, and Mifa, and I'm like, you do realize your bloodline can't continue if you do this, right? But then again, Zelda, they could be like bloodline, schmudline, or biology, who cares? But that's pretty much all I gotta say on. Oh my gosh, I just realized your video was on.
I was hoping I would turn the video on and like you would be looking away talking about whatever, and when you looked back it would kind of spook you, but
no, I was just like, why is he quiet? And I was like, let me go back to my video Discord, and I was like, oh, his video's on and he's wearing the creepy mask.
Yeah, it is creepy. Alright, so you can take 13.
Oh yes, I'm Interested to talk about this one. Okay, so number 13 should be true. Breath of the Wild is part of the Link defeated timeline. This is probably the biggest modern Legend of Zelda debate right now. Since the Hyrule Historia confirmed timelines for us and laid all the games out based on timeline, we now have a game post publication and don't know where it fits in the timeline. Game theory got me very oh god lord. You mentioned game theory, now I'm like, okay. No offense to MatPat. Game theory got me very convinced that Breath of the Wild is in the Link defeated timeline, so see for yourselves. I think the most convincing evidence if Ganondorf's form is Ganondorf's form in Breath of the Wild, according to Hyrule Historia, Ganondorf gives up his Gerudo mortal form and becomes more of a force of nature after his defeat of Link. The other games in the Heroes defeated timeline show Ganondorf as a monster rather than Gerudo. This is BS.
Yes.
And here's why. The reason this is BS is because you literally can have a plethora of evidence for all three timelines. It doesn't matter if you believe it's the adult timeline, I guarantee you there is a ton of evidence for that. If you believe it's the defeated timeline, there's a ton of evidence for that. If you believe it's the child timeline, which I did for a time, there's tons of evidence for that. But because of that, that means they all go against each other and they all work, which I'm sure Jesse will bring this up too, the fact that there was literally a video on his channel explaining how it's probably actually a conjoined timeline, like it's the end of, well, I mean,
when she
Aonuma
says
has already said.
She means mine.
Yeah.
The game here on the GameOverJesse channel, not his as in on the Game Theory channel. No,
not Game Theory. Game Theory, like, he loves doing what he does, but I mean, it literally doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, as much evidence as you provide, as much evidence for the other timelines. It doesn't make sense. Aonuma, I believe it was Aonuma, this is at the end of the timeline. He didn't say it was necessarily a conjoined timeline, but he did say it's at the end, and more recently, I forget what it was, he was basically saying it's wherever you want it to be. So if you want to say it's the Link defeated timeline, go for it. But I would actually encourage y'all to watch that video. I got to voice a little bit of it along with Connor, or Sexy Mac as he's also known.
Yes.
And it's pretty, it's I wouldn't say, oh, it's convincing, but it's more logical than anything. Because again, you can give evidence for any of the three, and you can also give evidence against all three. So saying, oh, it should be this. It's like, no, Aonuma already said it's wherever you want it to be, and it's at the end. And the most logical explanation is the Dragon Break theory. So watch that video. And also, don't take anything Game Theory says as gospel. Please. He's the one that said Link is dead. Don't. It's not possible.
So I've explained this a few times when I'm talking. Say something.
Say something.
Okay. The desktop audio, it was like the bar wasn't moving at all, and usually there is. It just must not be picking up any of your background noise until you talk.
That's good.
Anyways, with MatPat, there are interviews that I've seen. It was a few years ago. It was around the same time that he appeared on. There's like a game show thing on YouTube that a channel was trying to make where people would debate video game things. It was kind of like movie fights, but it was gamer fights or something like that. And I had watched it because Greg Miller.
Deadlock?
No, it wasn't that. It was just,
okay.
I think it was just like gamer fights. They only had one episode.
Oh, never mind.
So I watched it because on the first episode they had a few different people like MatPat and but I was watching for Greg Miller, the who I got the Game Over name from, GameOverJesse, Game Over Greggy. He also oddly enough around that exact same time was when I had my interview with Greg Miller. Anyways, but that can be found on my channel a long time ago. He talks about what he was looking forward to with Zelda Wii U, as it was known at the time, and other stuff about like leaving IGN, how he got his job at IGN, how he became like the main host person that they always went to and everything. Because like I think he joked about how a lot of channels will just put like, they'll get like a model who has an interest in games, and then they'll just put them on the camera to talk about the stuff. And despite having like really attractive girls or really attractive guys that could look like models to be on screen, like whenever you get like a news anchor or something, they always try to hire someone they can put on screen that look attractive. And he said like despite getting someone who looked like a model, they went with him because like charisma and everything. So it was a really interesting interview. And he talked about how like he'd went to college for journalism at the #1 journalism school in the world, Mizzou, I think. Yeah, Mizzou. Or at least it was #1 at the time. And then he'd graduated, and he was working like with his degree from the #1 journalism school in the world. He was working with people at his local newspaper that were fresh out of high school. And he did that for like 6 months or so, and then he ended up working for IGN. And like IGN and like the other places said something like they didn't necessarily care. Like they thought it's awesome that you went to college, you graduated and everything, but they were only hiring people who had like real life experience. So the way that I took that is like he could have just skipped college, worked 6 months at the one place, and then got the same job. So I'm not necessarily saying like he wasted like hundreds or like $100,000 or however much money you would spend over the course of the however many years you're at college, but it was just like an odd story that like despite having the diploma and everything, they wouldn't hire him or like even return his email until he had real world experience.
Yeah, that's always annoying.
Yeah, but you can go watch that interview. There's 2 or 3 videos with him on it. But anyways, with this theory, on that same video the game debate, he had MatPat on there. And around the same time that video uploaded, there was another interview with MatPat where he was talking about his YouTube channel. And he was saying that whenever they upload a theory, just because they upload it doesn't necessarily mean that they believe it. They just think that it's a cool idea and it will get people interested. So they upload it, and the problem comes with, because he even said, I don't know if it was the same interview or a different one, but there was one where he mentioned that most of his subscribers are like teenagers or little kids, and they'll see a theory on his channel and see how many views the video has, how many subscribers he has, and they'll just instantly think, oh, this video has hundreds of thousands or millions of views, he has millions of subscribers. If this wasn't true, he wouldn't have those subscribers. So this must be true because so many people have watched it. And that's where you get people believing the Link is dead theory and some other stuff, despite having interviews where Aonuma, the man who created the game, saying that's not true, as well as everything that happens in Twilight Princess also showing you that Link isn't dead. Because if he was dead as a kid, he wouldn't have been able to have a kid.
Exactly.
So
not everyone goes to the lengths we do, unfortunately.
Yeah. But what he did in that video is he put all the facts together to support his theory while leaving out everything that would debunk it. Yep. So if you go watch any of the theories on my channel, they tend to be kind of long because instead of making a quick 5-minute video saying, this is the theory, this is what it is, and it's done. Instead of doing that, I'll put the theory up, what it is, and even put up everything that I can think of that will either support it or go against it, and then come out with the final answer at the end. We even have a video similar to that on Agatha from Twilight Princess that Ilya was kind enough to do,
Yeah.
where we go over
fun.
what?
I said it was fun.
Yeah, we cover all of the different theories about her, explain each one individually, and even try to bring up the fact that none of it could be true, and she's just crazy and believes that all of it is true. So some different things there. But yes, Nintendo confirmed on their official website that Breath of the Wild takes place at the end of all three timelines. They put up like a new timeline on the official Zelda website where it has all three timelines, and then it has Breath of the Wild at the end of all three. So, not in the Downfall. Well, it is in the Downfall timeline, but it's also in the other. It's basically saying, in 10,000 years, so much stuff that could happen to where no matter what happened prior, the events will eventually lead to Breath of the Wild happening. Or all of the three timelines, just as they all split, come back together.
Yeah.
Which we've Majora's Mask and Skyward Sword have split timelines that end up coming back together. Skyward Sword is just at the very end, where like you go back and you change time, but then it affects the future. And then in Majora's Mask, Aonuma said, like, he confirmed that the canon ending is the one where Link is able to help everyone, which is impossible to do in the one day. So that means all of the different split timelines, after you stop Majora, they end up like all syncing together to where everyone is helped and everyone is saved. Despite some of the side quests, if you help, like they split off to where you have to choose to do one side quest and fail the other. So if you end up doing both, that means those split timelines have to sync back up. And there's just a video on it that goes over it, and the Dragon Break term comes from Elder Scrolls, which Aonuma said that Breath of the Wild was heavily influenced from the Elder Scrolls series. So that's another thing that pushes towards it. But we got this next thing here, and since I've been the one talking forever, I apologize, people. Ilya, would you like to talk about this non-theory?
Yeah.
Because I call it a non-theory because it's another one where the game itself kind of confirms it. And
we kind of talked about it earlier.
Yeah, we did. Yes. All right, go on.
So, number 12, confirmed the hero shade is Link from another game. Okay, so, remember the hero shade from Twilight Princess who taught you how to fight well? The Hyrule Historia confirmed that the hero shade is in fact Child Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. The hero shade has certainly aged well, hasn't he? The character is rather tragic, as Hyrule Historia describes that he died lamenting that he was never remembered as a hero, as well as not passing down his skills to the next generation. Though he does remedy that a little, teaching Twilight Princess Link how to fight. There are still unconfirmed theories about him, such as is it possible that he could have been a member of the Knights of Hyrule, since he's wearing that fancy armor. Others have claimed that his grave is in Twilight Princess in the castle graveyard with the description as Cursed Swordsman. Okay, they take a descriptor from Hyrule Historia where it says, oh, he laments that he was never remembered as a hero. He literally says that in the game. We don't need Hyrule Historia to tell us that. I love Hyrule Historia. I have the book. I'm not saying anything against the book. But that is said in-game. And again, like we mentioned earlier, he calls Twilight Princess Link his son, which, I mean, obviously that's probably not his direct son. A lot has happened. It's been probably a few centuries at least. So, like, great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson. But still, bloodline, we already knew that. It was kind of obvious. And again, this also proves that Link is not dead. Anyway, that's what I gotta say on it.
Because it's not a child skeleton, it's an adult skeleton. So that's
Exactly.
another thing confirming Link, Majora's Mask, not dead. But yeah, the soldier thing that it mentions, he is in Hyrule soldier armor. So
Yeah.
it's likely when he died, he was buried in his armor as kind of like a honor type thing, I guess. And then was Link's uncle, I think, was a knight in A Link to the Past. We know Link in Breath of the Wild was raised as a child to be a knight, and he was one of the best knights that they had. So there are games where Link is a knight, and obviously in Twilight Princess, where actually, I guess it would be after Majora's Mask, he ended up becoming a knight. Which, since he was the reason that they basically saved Hyrule when he was a kid, it's likely he would easily be honored to become a knight, especially since all the knights in Hyrule just stand around anyways in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one that's like, again, Zelda theory confirmed. Link has a horse in Twilight Princess.
Yeah, seriously.
Alright, the next one should be true. This is our last one for this video, everyone. So tune in tomorrow for part 3. This one, I actually really like this one. I have a video up talking about this one with, I wrote it for Yuri of Wind, if anyone knows who he is, from Gaming Mysteries. But he was busy, so I ended up getting my other friend, Luke, Zelda Master, to be on the video with me. I want to go back and redo that video because I wasn't really that great at editing and stuff back then, and my audio wasn't amazing. I went back and redid one of my videos about Demai, Stone Tower Temple, Termina, Low Rule, and everything.
Yeah.
Ilya was on that one. That one was with Dr. Wily, Commonwealth Realm.
Connor was on that one too, wasn't he? Wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think.
Sexy McIntyre.
Yeah.
I think I was on that one. It was just like a bunch of the old Chamber of Sages people. So it was really fun to do, and just like that one, Zelda Master was also on this one. But yeah, should be true. Malon and Link got together. Before you go bonkers, no, I don't ship it. I think this just has a lot of evidence. Personally, I do ship this, and I think it's the most logical thing because Link in Ocarina of Time realistically had 3 choices. Princess Zelda, Malon, and Princess Ruto. And if we look at Twilight Princess, who we know is the descendant of the hero of time, Link is not raised in the castle, so we know he's not a prince. He's not half Zora, so we know he didn't go with Princess Ruto. He is raised on a farm in the woods, and he helps out on that ranch. So, most likely suggestion is, yes, he and Malon. But this continues, saying, one piece of evidence is a gossip stone that is outside of the Temple of Time. It states that Malon dreams of a knight in shining armor. Also, Talon, her dad, jokes that Link should marry his daughter. Malon also appears interested in Link since she is always acting cheerful around him. Just to twist your mind a little more, I'll also let you know that Hyrule Historia mentioned that Twilight Link is a descendant of the Hero Shade Link. That's what we just got done covering. Seeing as Twilight Link is a farmer, it makes sense if he descended from Malon and Hero Shade Link. I wouldn't say it's Hero Shade Link, I would just say the Hero of Time.
Yeah.
Because Hero Shade implies that he was like a dead soldier when they had the baby. Anyways.
Which wouldn't make sense.
Who married Malon and made a farm family. Malon being related to might also explain why Twilight Link knows Epona's song, which Malon learned from her mother. So yeah, that all kind of makes sense. Again, Link, isn't raised in Zora's domain. He's not raised in the castle. He's raised on a farm. So,
Yeah.
And since there is no more Lon Lon Ranch, they probably moved their farm to the forest.
Yeah.
And then they also, in the forest, were able to grow all of the fruit, pumpkins, and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Ilya.
So I am totally down for this theory, and I actually have seen your video, Jesse, and other videos covering why this makes a lot more sense, and I agree. And I actually will video in it'll be like several more weeks, but that's going to be not just this ship, but covering different ships, I guess, and relationship possibilities in The Legend of Zelda, which ones I think possible and which ones I think are stupid. And this is one of the ones that I think is very, very possible and makes the most sense. I had something else to say on that, and I forgot. Oh, I don't think I mentioned it in the video, but or I already recorded it, I just haven't edited it. Anyway, off topic, but something I've always kind of personally theorized is that, maybe after, because we know that Child Link comes back and he's like, yo, Zelda, we need to tell your dad about all this stuff. Not good. We need to get rid of Ganondorf. They do. War ensues. It could be possible that Lon Lon Ranch, being in the middle of Hyrule Field was kind of in danger. And with the Deku Sprout, well, the Deku Sprout wouldn't exist because the tree would have died and he couldn't sprout because the temples weren't saved and all that stuff. The adult stuff didn't happen. So I always thought it might be possible that it was because of that war that Lon Lon Ranch was moved somewhere else, namely near Lost Woods, which would become Faron Woods or the Sacred Groves. So I think this makes perfect sense, and I like it better than shipping him and Zelda, and especially him and Ruto, because she's a fish.
Yeah, so I'm totally fine with Link ending up in Zelda in a game.
A couple of them, it would make sense.
Yeah, like Skyward Sword, I think that would
definitely
be good. Minish Cap, like the game starts with instead of Zelda like telepathically calling to you using her abilities, she literally comes, like the Princess of Hyrule comes to your little house to wake you out of bed to hang out at the festival. So I think it would also make sense for that. But in Ocarina of Time, I think maybe if Link as an adult would have stayed in that timeline, he and Zelda, because they had went through so much together, and
possibly
Zelda as Sheik and everything. So I think that could have been a possibility. But with Link being sent back, yeah, he was probably just, with Zelda. Or not Zelda, sorry, Malon. And there's also, I'm sure Zelda would have a lot to do after Ganon, because Zelda being the reincarnation of Hylia, that would probably spark something similar to Breath of the Wild, to where Zelda's always trying to study to figure out her powers and stuff, because we know in Ocarina of Time, during that 7-year gap, she somehow figures out all of these magical powers, because she doesn't really have any that we see as a child, but as an adult, she's like, she doesn't just have her ninja abilities, but when it comes time to fight Ganon, she is able to use her power to hold him back. She's able to bring or teleport whatever the light arrows for Link. So she has all of these magical abilities that she had to have learned at some time. And I imagine after the events of finding out about Ganondorf, that would spark curiosity for her to somehow start learning and learn these things. Especially since it was probably Impa who left with Zelda when she was a kid that taught her how to do all this stuff. So with them knowing about Ganondorf, it's likely that that would spark Impa to begin teaching Zelda as well. So she would probably be busy with all of her stuff. Again, this is just like theoretical head canon, but I think that would just be the most logical stuff that would happen, and then Link would be with Melon.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all of it. Ilya, who are you? Why are you here? If everyone wants to watch part 3 and part 4, we will have that coming very soon. But I hope you enjoyed episode 1 of this and episode 2. Let us know what your favorite theories were. Comment them below. And if you have your own list that you would like to send, go ahead, send it, and we will pick whatever the best ones are. Whichever ones have the most comments, likes, that people seem to enjoy, we will do that. So you can send the lists to us on my Twitter or Ilya's Instagram. You can find the links for that in the description. And Ilya also has her own YouTube channel, so if you've been here listening to her voice and been wondering what type of person is able to create such a beautiful voice, you can head over to Ilya Rose Geek Apprentice.
Yeah, it's usually just easiest if you look up Ilya Rose. You can probably find me if you type in the Geek Apprentice.
I was thinking about your Instagram handle. That's why I had to stop and think, because I didn't know if it was like Rose Ilya Rose.
Yeah. The Instagram handle is Ilya Rose _Geek Apprentice. But yeah, I have an Instagram. That's usually where I post like, hey, I have a new video, or random 30-minute long stories. Not really. It was just a couple during November. But sometimes I randomly post stories and I'm like, whoa, this thing happened. I have a video that I posted, what day was it? Friday the 7th that like just exploded. So you can expect more videos like that one. But yeah, I talk about geeky stuff. I talk about Zelda and Marvel and Disney and Harry Potter and other things. So yeah, just Ilya Rose, the Geek Apprentice. You can find me there. I do lots of talking.
Yeah. The video that she mentioned that kind of exploded was her Avengers 4 Endgame video reaction, and she also had her Game Awards reaction as well, so you can go check those out. Probably have more in the future. They'll probably release like 2 or 3 more Avengers Endgame trailers.
I'll definitely be reacting to those. I don't know if I'll cry, but I definitely cried for this first one, and I think that's why I exploded. Everyone's like, this girl's crying, and I'm like, yeah, I know.
And I expect a new Zelda trailer to come sometime in the next few months.
Oh my gosh. I will be freaking out for that.
Possibly, because Nintendo always has a big direct early in the year, like around February-ish. So I imagine, because I have a video on this, everyone can go watch, but they've been working a 2D Zelda game from Nintendo. Usually takes like 2 years, 3 at the most. They've been working on a Zelda game for about 4 years or longer. That is a 2D Zelda game. They've been working on it since Triforce Heroes released. And then they also, that was confirmed, for those who don't know, that's confirmed by Aonuma himself in an interview with Game Informer during the release of Breath of the Wild. And then they are also hard at work on their Breath of the Wild follow-up that is possibly going to be multiplayer. Aonuma said that he wanted to make a multiplayer game, but it's not exactly up to him. It's up to the president of Nintendo. So we'll see how that goes. Because Aonuma in the past has mentioned that he's wanted to make certain types of Zelda games in the past. Like he said once that he wanted to make a Zelda game with a female lead role. But that never happened. He wanted to originally make Zelda Wii U, or Breath of the Wild as it's known now, multiplayer. And that never happened. So, but that was one of the very first things that he said about Zelda Wii U, is that it wasn't going to be a single-player experience. And turns out it was 100% a single-player experience. But I think Wolf Link is a remnant of that. I think maybe originally they planned some, instead of the computer controlling Wolf Link, I think maybe they had plans for like a second player to be able to pick up and either control Wolf Link or a different person walking around. But it seems like they saved that idea for the next Zelda game, since Aonuma mentioned it once again. So who knows? Anyways, my name is Jesse. Everything about me can be found at GameOverJesse. So facebook.com/GameOverJesse. You can find our Facebook fan page. There's about 7,000 or 8,000 people that like it. They're all awesome. We have about 1,000 people in our Facebook group. We have a little over 1,100 people on our Discord. And we have everyone else that's following all of us on Twitter or Instagram. So links to all of that should be in the description.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like. And comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.